Hello everybody. Today is April 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm wearing pink. Don't have any wings, so I won't be shot. Don't think I'm Cupid. And this is going to be my day 1.274. And we're going to start off with a little bit of voice training, and then we're going to roll into a question I want to answer. So once again, I've got my little free app that you would use. This is just a tuner, and it gives a little bit of live, just current. If I go, oh, okay, it'll tell you what pitch you're at. So anyway, bear with while I put this down. Oops, start a program, close the window. Okay, are we ready? There we go. Okay, so let's just do ambulance drills real quick. Okay, ready? We're gonna go. All right, you get the gist of it. Ooh, did you hear my voice crack? Okay. Let me get this ready. Bear with when I do that. As I had mentioned before, I'm sorry. These videos, again, are not an exercise in ego aggrandizement. It's just me. I got to practice and I got to talk, and this is my YouTube channel about my transitions, so it just seems kind of appropriate. A PS or a pre-PS, I don't know what that is, a PPP, PS. What I noticed yesterday is when I was talking very quickly, my voice got really flat, okay? And I think that's just part of practice. I think that if I talk a little slower and I focus more on my, number one, my breathing, okay? I focus on my breathing and putting breath into my words, which is a matter of pushing air out of my diaphragm as I talk, okay? Because when you sing, you don't really put breath in your air. If I say, suddenly see, if I'm putting my hand in front, suddenly Seymour is standing beside me, okay? That there's a little bit of breath in there, but when you're talking, you use a little bit of breath, okay? And that's, I think, what adds a little bit of emphasis, a little bit of word choice, a little bit of intonation, okay? And naturally, our fluctuation of our voices as we get excited or as we get sad, okay? It's like playing the bagpipes. You got to have that airbag, and so I think that's part of my problem. Is when I talk very, very fast, I do not enunciate my words, okay? And so I may get the word, but it may sound somewhat flat, okay? And so, yes, buddy. Buddy agrees. So anyway, let me wet my whistle here again. That wasn't me. So anyway, so I'm going to talk here. All right, so we're at the 4-minute mark. Okay, so for today's lesson, usually I try to read something, but I need to practice just communicating. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to answer a question someone had posted on a Facebook page. Trans Women National. If you're not a member, I highly recommend joining. Even if you're an advocate or an ally, just it's good to know. It's good to network with other people, okay? Trans Women National, Facebook, etc. And I need to wet my whistle again, and I got to breathe. Maybe that was my problem before. I just wasn't breathing. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to cross my legs. Nutcracker. Okay, and I have a kitty cat in my lap. Hello, baby. So let me tilt this down, bear with. Okay, now I'm at 5 minutes. I gotta remember the mark because I'm gonna post this video with just the key time in it. So 5:10, let's do that. Okay, there was a question on Facebook by a very someone who just said, "Hey, no, I don't want to cause any flack to anybody." There we go. How about that? Is that better? But why does there have to be a trans group? Okay, very good question. And a lot of this answer might be my own personal take on things. So again, bear with if I make any mistakes. And since I'm trying to practice my voice, bear with and please forgive me if I go a little flat or my voice cracks. Okay. So why do we need trans groups? You know, it would be nice to live in a world where everyone is accepted all of the time for whatever reason, okay? Unfortunately, that's not reality. In reality, our mind tends to make shortcuts. We naturally group people together. We put little labels over their heads like they're butterflies, you know, pinned, you know, in the name of the butterfly on top of them. Not that I would any do such a thing, but we naturally group people together, okay, much like sticks of gum in a gum pack, okay? We conveniently do this. And I don't know necessarily where I'm going with this, bear with me. So it helps, I know it helped me out when I was coming to terms with my feelings. And this would have been in 1990, 91, 92, when I was living in Atlanta. And I had found the internet for the first time, and I was able to communicate with other trans women, okay? And I had no idea at the time, up until I was 17. Yes, I knew when I was in middle school, I knew that transgender, or transsexuals as it was called, you know, if you went to your library and you look in the card catalog, you'd be lucky to find anything. But again, I did a little bit of research at what I could find and found out about Renee Richards and, you know, just that it was possible to change one's sex, okay? It was very eye-opening to me. I may drink this all, but I felt alone, okay? Growing up, when I was in my, you know, up until middle school, you know, we didn't have the internet. I mean, it was high school, I remember when bulletin boards started to pop up. You know, you would call in, if you were lucky enough to have a 300 baud modem, you would dial in and there would be a message board or a bulletin board system or whatnot. And that really would have been an outlet for me to communicate with other trans women or, you know, the trans community as it was. But I didn't have that because I was, at the time, misgendered. I was a little boy, and I knew that, you know, my feelings were wrong, you know, based on my environment around me, okay? I think I did at one point say something to my mom, and, you know, again, you know, I knew, ooh, see, that's a flat. I knew, see, now I have air to it. Oh, I gotta slow down, sorry. I guess I'm passionate about this. I knew I was transgender, but I didn't have a way to express it. I didn't have a way to articulate it. And I think that is where a group, we'll say trans women, or a community, a group, like a club, it's a way of learning. Oh, now my voice is going down. It's a way of learning a little more about yourself, but to know that you're not alone, okay? And, you know, I think about my daughter, who's 11, and, you know, it would be a foreign concept to her, you know, not to have the internet, not to have a web page, not to have a computer, okay? So, back when I was trying to deal with my feelings, there was nobody else. And so, I was 19 years old, okay, when I found out that um, there was a group of people who got together who were not sickos, not perverted. It wasn't a sexual thing, okay? And I hooked up with Tri-S, the Society for the Second Self, in Atlanta. Just happened to be that year Southern Comfort was coming to Atlanta, although I didn't know what that was at the time. And to talk to someone on the phone, again, we take it for granted nowadays, okay? But to talk to someone on the phone, I remember calling it was the gay hotline in Atlanta. And for its time, Atlanta was pretty advanced as far as I mean, it had, gay bars and whatever else, the Dunkin' Diner and everything. The Dyken Diner. Anyway, but to go somewhere that was safe, okay? Maybe what is now what we would consider to be a chat room, okay? Like and I forget the name of it. Going to a chat room, much like a weekly support group meeting or whatever, it helps to have a starting place, to know that you're not alone and to know that your feelings are perfectly normal. Again, up until when I was, 17, 18, I mean, I was suicidal because I couldn't express my feelings and I thought that I was alone. I thought that I was the only one in the world, okay? And God had rejected me, and I couldn't understand how a being, and my understanding of God at that time, excuse me, my daughter. Shh. Yeah, I know. Props. Anyway, I didn't understand how God, this being of love, could create me and abandon me and hate. I had such hatred for myself, and I didn't understand it. I didn't want to be alive. And luckily, I found this support group, okay, that helped me understand that I was not alone. My feelings were perfectly natural, okay, and everything else. It gave me the support that I needed to do the research and to go to my therapist or, seek out a counselor and, start the process of self-discovery that has led me some 30, 40 years later to where I am today, okay? So, one person can say, well, do we need these things now? And I don't think they're a bad thing, okay? And I think someone once told me that, in life with a group of people, the problems stay the same, but the people change, okay? In other words, 2 years ago, and I can't even remember. I don't remember. I mean, I like Lacey, for example. I don't know Lacey's old name. I don't know Megan's old name either. I don't know anybody. The only one I know is Miss Amelia. But I forgot where I was going with that. Derailed. I'll use me. And again, this is not an exercise in ego aggrandizement, okay? It's just I can insult myself or talk about myself, and the only person I'm, it's gonna come back on is me. To have a place where you can go and to be yourself is wonderful. And if anything, perhaps there is a developmental path. And certainly everyone's journey is going to be differently. Yes, it is a journey, but it's different for everybody. We say your mileage may vary, okay? But, in my position, I was on my own up until a certain point. And then I got on IRC, Internet Relay Chat, and there was trans women or cross-dressers at the time. And then I moved more into a social area that I felt more comfortable with the Tri-S, the Society for the Second Self, what I would consider like Trans Women National, our monthly meeting. And maybe before that step, there's a chat room stage, okay? And so depending on where we enter into this and how far we go on it, in this case, where Trans Women National is, or a support group, we're very good at lying. I mean, Bobby says we're the greatest liars in the world because we lie to ourselves and we lie to other people before we transition and go full time. But what I was going to say was, when there's an electronic forum like a chat room, okay, we can develop very fake, I hate to say fake personas, okay, and it's a good opportunity to explore, okay. It's like wearing training pants or having training wheels on your bicycle. But there comes a point, in my opinion, there was a point for me. I have to, otherwise I'm going to be accused of being judgmental, and I'm going to just talk about myself, okay? There was a point where logging into a computer and, being Karen Gray Owl, I needed more than that, okay? I needed an affirmation, but it was a necessary step. It was a first step that I needed. But I needed that communication, and I needed person to person, face to face, and to get out of this cyber faux reality, if you will, okay, the Matrix chat room into the real world. And that is a huge step, and one that I think I forget. It's a big step to go from, coming home, you're in your male drag, okay, if you haven't gone full time yet. And you're like, oh, okay, thank goodness I get to be, I'm not going to be Joe Schmo anymore. I'm going to be myself, Karen, or your name, or whoever you are, at least digitally. Okay, that is a huge plus. But there comes a point when that becomes limiting. You're only your female self in this little box. And I know I wanted more than that. I wanted face-to-face communication. I wanted, we talk about physical touch. There's a Rick Springfield song called The Human Touch. We need that person-to-person community, okay? I think. I wanted it. We're going to go back to me. I was ready for the next step. Now, much like my first Tri-S meeting in Atlanta, my first trans woman meeting 2 years ago, I was scared shitless, but I knew it was something I had to do, okay? But going up those steps and reaching for that handle and pulling it open, oh my gosh, I almost went back to my car. I was nervous, And so at that meeting, fortunately, there were some elders, some trans women elders there. One of them was Elizabeth Graham, known as Tess. And Tess said something at the meeting that I think is going to answer this question for you about, let me wet my whistle again. I'm sorry, I'm going flat. I've not learned how to cough like a lady yet. I got to learn how to do it. But here's what Tess said. Tess said, I know that when I come into this room, Trans Women National Support Group, every one of you, every woman in this room knows what I am going through. You all know the pain, you know the suffering, you know the challenges, okay? We are similar in that, even though we're all different, okay? Our journeys are different, our histories are different somewhat, but I know that you know what I am going through. And that, I think in of itself, is why there needs to be a trans woman support group. And wouldn't it be nice one day in the future that would be like the ultimate goal, right? Is you wouldn't need a support group because it would be acceptable everywhere. But there's something about as long as the behavior is somewhat misunderstood or stigmatized by a religious group, or other things, okay? And definitely politicians who are trying to score points with their base. Julie says trans women are low-lying fruit. You know, your numbers are down, and you're not doing a great job in office. Well, you know, whip out your party's book. In the case of the Republicans, look at your base and say it's an abomination against God and whatever else. And suddenly your base is like, oh, well, screw, you know, yeah, Senator Scratch and Sniff is not doing the best job in the world, but he stands for the values that I do, okay? And forget it. So as long as we are persecuted, I think we're going to need these groups and whatnot, okay? Transsexual Menace, I think, was a group back when I was younger. So anyway, back to the idea, though, of the why do we have to have this group? And my earlier point about the problems stay, the people change, but the problems stay the same is 2 years ago, there was a very young and upcoming person living as a male who was actually a girl who needed that meeting. And she went up to that door and opened it up and went inside and was welcome. And, you know, there was a crew of different people from different experiences in different places. And that was another valuable thing, okay? And this person changed their clothes and they were accepted. And it was the first time in a long time they had been accepted as the female that they wanted to be in this very safe room, okay? If you think of, you know, Russian dolls, you know, you have a little doll inside of a bigger doll, inside of a bigger doll, inside of a bigger, let's imagine those are rooms. And in my experience, being that young person 2 years ago, I started off on IRC, and then I went to chat rooms, and then I went to a larger, and then I went to a support group and then, you know, Lacey will talk about going to Orlando for her things. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as we feel comfortable with it. And we might step out of one box and into the larger one when we feel like we can handle it, okay? When we are ready. There's no timeline for it, and there's no right or wrong. It's what we feel comfortable with. And that is something that I really like about Trans Women National, okay? And other groups like it. But definitely, okay, the people change, but the problems stay the same, okay? So again, for that person that I was 2 years ago, coming in for the first time in a long time and dealing with it, the problems of how do I come out to my family? How do I deal with my parents? How do I deal with my children? How do I transition at the work? All of the things that you encounter at that specific stage or plateau that you're on, you know, you go on to the next plateau, the next challenge, the next challenge. If you're on that path, if that's what you want to do. And the nice thing is there are people there who can give you feedback, constructive criticism, and suggestions if you're open to it. It also is a forum to express yourself in a safe way. And again, there comes a time when ask yourself this question: where are the trans women elders? They're gone. Their place as trans women elders have been taken over by the next generation of trans women. Okay? And I kind of think this is a natural progression. Again, you have people on, you know, over here just starting out, and they have answers, questions for certain things. And as they go along this process, they go full time, whatnot. And maybe they have surgery or maybe not. And they get to this other point, and it's like, okay, I'm ready to go to the next box, the next area, okay, which might be the next real world. I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm on my way, though. I can tell you that. So, again, in me over here, where I'm at now, okay, there are other people along the path, okay? We might be over here, and I'm going to say Lacey and Megan, and then we go back a little further, and people who are about to go full time, and then people who are just starting hormones and whatnot. But there was another post on Facebook about when you get over here, there comes a point when for some trans women, and I can think of Melanie Ann Phillips is the one that comes to mind because she was my like mentor back when I was 18, 19, 20. One day she posted a video that just said, you know, it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to close the chapter of my life where I transitioned and go on to the next chapter of my life where I am a woman and I want to pursue other things. I want to spend my time doing other things. And she kind of cried, and I would cry too. You know, you don't want to turn your back and say, I'm not interested anymore. But there are some trans women who get to that stage and they look back and they're like, yeah, as part of this natural progression, they have to leave and new people are coming along. And so that's what I mean when I say the problems stay the same, but the people change. You know, you're always going to have someone who is questioning their gender identity. You're going to have someone who's just started hormones. You're going to have someone who's thinking about going full time or working on going full time. You know what I mean? You're going to have this, and to make room, I'm not saying it has to happen, but that's what I have noticed, okay, over time. The women that were there when I first started, they're not around anymore. They're doing their own thing, okay? Some of them are, some of them are not, okay? So why, you know, the question was, well, why do we still need to have this group? And again, I think if I haven't answered it already in this diatribe, I think it's a necessary step. It's a necessary stage, and definitely it's a safe spot. It's a no bullshit spot either. That can be something too. You know, we lie to ourselves, and maybe we have developed somewhat of a, and this was my, okay, I'm going to talk about me again. I'm sorry. You know, before I went full time, I had kind of developed this persona that did not, when it was time for me to go full time, this persona that was only in the electronic world didn't survive, okay, because the reality is a little different than this electronic. And I had to go through that learning process to understand it. And so again, I think if anything, that may be one other reason why we need these support groups for the moment. But there definitely is a danger, much like if all you do is you stay in these chat rooms and you have this electronic persona. I think there is a bit of a danger of going into the real world. There's a bit of an obstacle, for lack of a better word. I gotta switch that legs. Hang on. Nutcracker! There is a danger of being afraid. And there's nothing wrong with being afraid, but I think being in the electronic chat room world, it's very hard to go into the real world. Because in the electronic world, we're very comfortable there. And we had in our minds, we have an expectation that we may not really meet. For example, okay, I'm going to be an ugly woman. Okay, that's an example from my life. And if you saw me before, you'd be like, shit, you know? But so I would have a fear of going into the real world, leaving my comfortable electronic home, my womb, for lack of a better word, and going into the next world, the next bigger place. And so I might avoid going to a trans woman national. I might avoid going to something sociable because I have sold myself that I will never be as good as the expectation. Ooh, now my voice is going. I've been talking for 30 minutes. That's pretty good. Oh. Okay, so I may not live up to the expectation. And that may keep me from progressing. You know what I mean? And there is a bit of a reality check, you know? I'll use me as again, this is not an episode, this is not exercise in ego aggrandizement. You know, I had this idea when I was in the chat room phase that, you know, I would go through this metamorphosis transition and be beautiful and young and everything. And again, I was afraid to go out of that. There's a bit of reality that comes into play. We realize, and I can't, my bald spot, I don't know where it is now. Again, I was going to try and show you, but we're back there. Anyway, it's facing reality. And in a way, I think it's a necessary step. But anyway, enough of me repeating myself. So, I don't know if that answers the question, but I think it helps to understand why we need these groups, okay, and why they might be around for a long time. And yes, it would be nice. Think of it as a club. Excuse me, for lack of a better word. If you wanted to learn how to square dance, okay, you would probably join a club or something that teaches you how to square dance. And maybe that's what these groups, a support group can be, as a way for you to learn. And, once you learn how to square dance, you may never go to another teach me how to square dance meeting. Who knows? And that's all I got for today. And I do appreciate the question. And perhaps also, the idea, I think something that the person said was something about, they don't see trans women, they only see men and women. Bless your heart. I wish there were more people like you out there. Okay. I've been told that minds are like umbrellas. They only work when they're open. And, bless your heart. I hope there are more people like you. And I think the public opinion is definitely changing. I mean, if it hasn't already. But again, back to that idea of a journey, some people, when they get to the point that they go full time, and I think of the word stealth, live stealth or whatnot, they might identify as trans women for the rest of their life. They might say, no, I am a woman. I'm not a trans woman now. Discuss that at your own. That's a whole other topic. But everyone has to make that. Everyone has the opportunity to make that decision for themselves. And there's no right or wrong answer, fortunately. So on that note, I have definitely gone over. So I must say I wish everyone good luck on your journey, good luck on your transition. I would definitely encourage you to be the best version of yourself that you feel you want to be. Take it as far as you want to go. Be as happy as you want to be. Okay? All right? Fair enough? And if you're feeling a little doubtful, I can say that here at Hormone Month 23, 22, I think, I still have doubts too. I still get up every morning, and there are mornings where I say, my breasts aren't big enough, or I don't feel girly enough, or I'm not going to make it, or, it happens. It happens. And to that, I would say to you, look at how far you've come. Look at how far you've come. Look at where you were and look at where you are now. Think about where you want to go and take it in stride. And I know that's hard to do. I promise you, I know that's hard to do. All right, so till next time, I wish everyone good luck on your journey, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.